connections between all the characters in the book so far? Yes. What are some connections that we've made? Owen, what do we got?
They're all like refugees.
Okay, they're all refugees. That's good. Caden, what do you got?
That's what I was gonna say.
All right, good. Any others? Cole.
They're all fleeing their home because of a certain, like, mostly because of violence.
They're all fleeing their home because of violence. Mrs. Bigger, you want to check your Chromebook because I don't know if there's a camera on there. Okay, all fleeing because of violence. Anything else? One connection that I saw is, did you notice anything about all their dads?
Their dad is getting
They all either went to jail or
Right, they've all gone to jail.
They all need to.
They all are, hey, we need to leave, right?
All their dads want.
they're fleeing.
Well, except for Mahmoud's. I don't know if Mahmoud's dad was in jail. Was he in jail?
Yeah, he was in
All
jail.
their dads
What's that? No, he works for the cell phone.
He wasn't there when it all.
He wasn't there when it happened, but he showed up,
Yeah,
right?
he showed up.
He showed up. And then they were gonna flee in their car and go to Germany.
All of the dads want.
It's a long ways away.
Yeah, Germany's a long ways away. Okay. Well, that's Isabel, right? So, right, here's the thing. There's lots of things going on with each character, and we kind of need to remember, right? Joseph, right? What did he just board? A ship, right? So this is in the 30s. So he's going to where? Is he going to Cuba? They're going to Cuba first, right? Okay. Isabel's doing what? She lives in Cuba, and they're going to go in some homemade boat, hopefully, right? And then Mahmoud eventually is going to Germany, okay? Well, yeah, eventually the goal was to get to Germany, I guess, okay? All right, here we go. So Joseph, 6 days from home, somewhere on the Atlantic Ocean, 1939. We're on page 56. Here we go. Ruthie skipped ahead of Joseph along the sunny promenade deck, happier than he'd ever seen her before. Then why not? The MS St. Louis was a paradise. Banned from movie theaters in Germany because she was a Jew, Ruthie had seen her first cartoon on board during movie night and loved it, even if it was followed by a newsreel with Hitler yelling about Jews. 3 times a day, they ate delicious meals in a dining room laid out with white linen tablecloths, crystal glasses, and shining silverware, and stewards waited on them hand and foot. They had played shuffleboard and badminton, and the crew was putting up a swimming pool, which they promised to fill with seawater once the St. Louis hit the warm Gulf Stream. Everyone in the crew had treated Joseph and his family with kindness and respect, despite his father's repeated warnings that all Germans were out to get them. In 5 days, Papa hadn't come out of their cabin once, not even for meals, and Joseph's mother had barely left his side. And the crew wasn't just being nice because they didn't know Joseph and his family were Jews. No one wore their Jewish armband on the ship, and there were no J's above any of the passenger compartments, because all the passengers were Jews. All 908 of them. They were all going to Cuba to escape the Nazis, and now that they were finally away from the threats and violence that followed them everywhere in Germany, there was singing and dancing and laughter. 2 girls around Ruthie's age, wearing matching flowery dresses, were leaning over the railings and giggling. Joseph and Ruthie went over to see what they were doing. One of the girls had found a long piece of string that was dangling over the side, tickling the noses of passengers who were sleeping in chairs down on A deck. Their current victim kept battling at his nose like there was a fly on it. He bopped his nose hard enough to jerk awake, and Ruthie laughed hysterically. The girls yanked up the string, and they all dropped to the deck behind the rail where the man couldn't see them laughing. "I'm Joseph," he told the other girls when they'd all gathered themselves together. "And this is Ruthie. Joseph just turned 13, Ruthie told the girls. He's going to have his bar mitzvah next Shabbos." I don't know, I'm not really clear on some of the Jewish words of their holidays. A bar mitzvah was a ceremony at which a boy officially became a man under Jewish law. It was usually held on the first Shabbos, the Sabbath, the Jewish day of rest, after a boy's 13th birthday. Joseph couldn't wait for his bar mitzvah. If there's enough people, Joseph reminded his sister. I'm Renata Alber, said the older of the two girls, and this is Evelyn. They were sisters, and amazingly, they were traveling alone. Our father is waiting for us in Cuba, Renata told them. Well, where's your mama? Ruthie asked. She wanted to stay in Germany, Evelyn said. Joseph could tell it wasn't something they were comfortable talking about. Hey, I know something funny we can do, he told them. It was a trick he and Klaus had played on Herr Meyer once upon a time. Thinking about Klaus made Joseph think about other things, but he blinked away the bad memories. The MS St. Louis had left all that behind. First, Joseph said, we need some soap. Once they found a bar, Joseph showed them how to soap up a door handle so that it was so slick it was impossible to turn. They used it on the door handles of cabins up and down the passageway on A deck, then head around the corner and waited. Soon enough, a steward balancing a large silver tray came down the hall from the other end and knocked on a door. Joseph, Ruthie, Renata, and Evelyn had to swallow their Snickers as the steward reached down with his free hand to try and fail open the door. The steward couldn't see because of the big platter he held, and he fumbled with the knob. He lost his hold on the tray, and the whole thing came crashing down with a great clatter. All four of them burst out laughing, and Joseph and Renata pulled the two younger children away before they could be caught. They collapsed behind one of the lifeboats, panting and giggling. As Joseph dried his eyes, he realized he hadn't played like this, hadn't laughed like this for many years. Joseph wished they could stay on board the St. Louis forever. Swallowing their Snickers. Did he actually swallow the candy? No, Snickers meaning laughter, right? Right? Kind of what you guys do when you find something funny in class and you snicker behind your mask or quietly next to somebody so you don't get into trouble by Mrs. Bigger. Right? Okay. Page 60, Isabel, just outside Havana, Cuba. The boat was heavy in Isabel's arms, and she was afraid of dropping it, even though there were 5 other people carrying it with her. She and Ivan held the middle of the boat on either side, while Ivan's parents and Isabel's father and grandfather carried the front and back. Senora Castillo, Ivan's mother, was dark-skinned and curvy and wore a white kerchief over her dreadlocks. Isabel's mother, almost 9 months pregnant, was the only one not helping to carry the boat. It was big and heavy to begin with, and they had packed it with the gas cans, plastic soda bottles filled with fresh water, condensed milk, cheese and bread, and medicine. Everything else had to be left behind. Nothing was more important than making it to Florida. It was night, and a waning moon peeked out from behind the scattered clouds. A warm breeze lifted Isabel's short, curly hair and raised goosebumps on her arms. Fidel Castro had said that anyone who wanted to leave was welcome to go, but that was hours ago. What if he'd changed his mind? What if there was a line of police waiting to arrest them at the beach? Isabel hefted the boat to get a better grip and tried to pick up her pace. They left the village gravel road and hauled the boat over dunes to the sea. All Isabel could see was the metal side of the boat in front of her face, but she heard a commotion behind her. There were people on the beach, lots of them. She panicked. Her worst fears come true. And suddenly, a blinding light lit her up. Isabel cried and let go of the boat. Ahead of her, Senora Castillo staggered and lost her grip too, and the front of the boat slammed into the sand. Isabel turned, holding a hand up in front of her eyes and expecting to see a police searchlight shining on her. What she saw instead was a television camera. "Well, you're on CNN," a woman said in Spanish, her face nothing but a silhouette against the light. "Can you tell us what made you decide to leave?" "Quickly," Senor Castillo called from the other side of the boat. "Pick it back up. We're almost to the water." Isabel said, frozen in the bright light of the camera. "Do you have any relatives back in Miami that you want to send a message to?" the reporter asked. "No, Isabel, the boat," Poppy called. The others had already lifted the boat up out of the sand and were lurching toward the sound of the crashing waves. The bright lights of the camera swung away from Isabel and lit up what looked like a party on the beach. More than half their village was on the sand, clapping, waving, and cheering on the boats. And there were so many boats. Isabel's family had worked in secret all night with the Castillos, worried someone might hear them. But apparently, everybody else had been doing the same thing. There were inflatable rafts, canoes with homemade outriggers, rafts made of inner tubes tied together, boats built out of styrofoam and oiled drums. A rickety-looking raft made out of wooden shipping pallets and inner tubes raised a bedsheet sail, and as it caught wind, the villagers on the beach cheered. Then another raft, made out of an old refrigerator, sank. Everyone laughed. The camera light swung around again, and that's when Isabel saw the police. There was a small group of them up on the rocks overlooking the inlet. Not nearly as many as there had been in Havana, but enough. Enough to arrest her family for trying to leave Cuba. But these police weren't doing anything. They were just standing and watching. Castro's order to let people leave must have been good. Chabela, her mother called. Chabela, come on. Mammy was already in the boat, and Pappy was helping Ivan in. Senor Castillo was trying to get the motor started. Isabel waded into the water, the waves lapping up the bottom of her shorts. She was almost to Pappy's outreached arms when she saw her father's eyes go wide. Isabella looked back over her shoulder. Two of the policemen had broken from the group and were running towards the water, towards them. No, they're coming for me, Pappy cried. Isabel fell into the water and swam the rest of the way to the boat, but her father was already climbing over the side. Start the engine, he cried. No, wait for me, Isabel yelled, spitting seawater. She got a hand to the side of the boat and looked back. The two policemen had hit the surf and were running high-legged through the waves. Worse, the other policemen were running too, and they were all headed for the Castillo's boat. Hands grabbed Isabel and helped her climb to the side of the boat, Ivan. But when he got her aboard, Ivan and his mother then reached their hands out for the two policemen who were chasing them. What are they doing? No, Pappy cried, scrambling as far away from them as he could. Ivan and Senora Castillo grabbed the arms of the two policemen and pulled them on board, and they all collapsed to the bottom of the boat. Uh-oh. So they must have wanted to escape too. They weren't going after them. They were joining them. The policemen pulled off their berets, and Isabel recognized one of them instantly. It was Luis, the Castillo's elder son. The other policeman shook his long black hair, and Isabel started to realize it wasn't a policeman at all. It was a policewoman. When she took Luis's hand, Isabella guessed it was his girlfriend. This must have been the Castillo's plan all along, for Luis and his girlfriend to run away with them, but they never told Isabel and her family. Pop! A pistol rang out over the waves, and the crowd on the beach cried out in pain. The pistol fired again. Pop! And ping! The hull of the Castillo's boat rang as the bullet hit it. The police were shooting at them. But why? Didn't Castillo say it was all right to leave? Isabel's eyes fell on Luis and his girlfriend, and she understood. They had been drafted into the police, and they weren't allowed to leave. They were deserters. The deserters were shot. The motor coughed to life, and the boat lurched into a wave, spraying Isabel with seawater. The villagers on the beach cheered for them, and Senor Castillo revved the engine, leaving the charging policemen in their wake. Isabel braced herself between two of the benches, trying to catch her breath. It took her a moment to process it, but this was really happening. They were leaving Cuba, her village, her home, everything she'd known, behind. Isabella's father pitched across the rolling boat and grabbed Senor Castillo by the shirt. What are you playing at, letting them on board? He demanded. What if they follow us? What if they send a Navy boat for us? You've put us all in danger. Senor Castillo battled Geraldo Fernandez's arms away. We didn't ask you to come along. It's our gasoline, Isabel's father yelled. They kept arguing, but the engine and the slap of the boat against the waves drowned their words out for Isabel. She wasn't paying any attention anyway. All she could think about was the 90 miles they still had to go and water pouring in from the gunshot hole on the side of the boat. Oh, man. Little extra excitement there, huh? Oh, could you imagine that? Heart pounding, trying to breathe heavy. All right, here we go. Mahmoud, just outside Aleppo, Syria, 2015. He's one day from home. Mahmoud's father stopped their Mercedes station wagon for gasoline at a little roadside station north of Aleppo. Walid and Mahmoud sat in the car with their mother while she nursed Hana under a blanket. Fatima had put on a long black sleeved dress and a pink flowery hijab that covered her head and shoulders. She and Yusuf had agreed she should cover up more than she usually did in Aleppo in case they ran into stricter Muslims outside the city. In some places, women were being stoned and killed for not covering up their entire bodies, especially in areas controlled by Daesh, what the rest of the world called ISIS. Daesh thought they were fighting the final war of the apocalypse, and anyone who didn't agree with their twisted perversion of Islam were infidels who should have their heads cut off. Mahmoud and his family planned to stay as far away from Daesh as possible, but the radical fighters were coming farther and farther into Syria every day. Mahmoud looked out the dusty car window as a jet fighter streaked high above them, headed for Aleppo. A mural painted on the side of the gas station showed President Assad, his dark hair cut short and a thin mustache underneath his pointy nose. He wore a suit and tie in front of a Syrian flag. Doves of peace and yellow, shining light surrounded him. A jagged line of real bullet holes bisected Assad's face. Mahmoud's father got back into the car. "I've got a route for us," Mom said. She finally had a signal and got Google Maps to open on her iPhone. Mahmoud leaned over to see. "This route crosses a country border," Google Maps told him, marking the alert with a little yellow triangle. That's what they wanted, to get out of Syria using the fastest path possible. Dad started the engine, put the car into gear, and they were off. An hour later, they were met on the road by 4 soldiers waving for them to stop. Mahmoud froze. The soldiers might be with the Syrian army or with the Syrian rebels. They could even be Daesh. It was hard to tell anymore. Some of these soldiers wore camouflage pants and shirts, but others wore Adidas jerseys and leather jackets and track pants. They all had short black beards like Mahmoud's father and wore headscarves of different colors and patterns. But each of them had an automatic rifle, which was really all that mattered. "Your hijab," Dad said, "quickly." Mahmoud's mother pulled the end of the scarf up over her face so that only her eyes were showing. Mahmoud sank to the floor of the old Mercedes station wagon and tried to disappear. In the seat beside him, Walid sat up straight next to his open window, unmoving, unfazed. "Everybody stay calm," Dad said, slowing the car down, "and let me do all the talking." One of the soldiers stood in front of the car, his rifle aimed loosely at the windshield, while the others walked around the sides, peering through the windows. The soldiers were silent, and Mahmoud closed his eyes tight, waiting for the shots to come. Sweat ran down his back. "I'm just trying to get my family to safety," Dad told the men. One of the men stopped at the driver's side window and pointed his rifle at Mahmoud's father. "Which side do you support?" The question was as dangerous as his gun. The right answer, and they lived. The wrong answer, and they all die. But what was the right answer? Assad and the Syrian army? The rebels? Daesh? His dad hesitated, and Mahmoud held his breath. One of the soldiers cocked his rifle. Chikak. It was Walid who spoke up. "We're against whoever's dropping bombs on us," he said. The soldier laughed, and the other soldiers laughed with him. "We're against whoever dropping the bombs too," the soldier at the window said, which is usually what that dog Assad. Mahmoud breathed again with relief. Walid didn't know it, but he'd saved the day. Where are you going?" the soldier at the window asked. "North," Dad said, "through Azaz." The soldier opened the back door of the car and slid inside, pushing Walid to the back of the station wagon. No, you can't go through Azaz anymore," the soldier said. "The Free Syria Army and Al-Qaeda are fighting there now." The door next to Mahmoud opened, and one of the soldiers nudged him up from the floor and into the back with Walid. 2 more soldiers crammed themselves into the back seat, and the last one joined Mahmoud and Walid in the back with their backpacks. He was dusty and smelled like he hadn't had a bath in months, and the heat of the road radiated off him and his rifle like a stove. Apparently, They were all coming along for a ride. One of the soldiers in the back seat snatched up Mom's iPhone and looked at the route. Use Apple Maps, another soldier said. No, you idiot. Google Maps is better, said his friend. See here, he told Mahmoud's father. You'll have to go over to Katma and then north through Castel Sindo. Huh? The rebels and the army and Daesh are all fighting here, he said, pointing to the places on the map. Many guns and artillery, and the Kurds hold all this territory here. Russian airstrikes have hit here and here in support of Altwig, Allah, White Pig, Assad, and American drones are attacking Daesh around here and here. Mahmoud's eyes were wide. Everything the soldier was describing stood between them and Turkey. Go back south, one of the soldiers told Mahmoud's father. You can let us off at Highway 214. Dad turned the car around and drove. The soldier with the iPhone scrolled up the map to see their destination. You're going to Turkey? I went to engineering school there, Mahmoud's father said. You shouldn't be leaving Syria, said one of the soldiers. You should stand up for your country. Fight the tyrant Assad. Between Assad and Daesh and Russia and America, Mahmoud thought, there wasn't much of Syria left to fight for. I just want to keep my family safe, Dad said. My family was killed in an airstrike, one of the soldiers said. Maybe when yours is too, you'll take up arms. But by then, it'll be too late. Mahmoud remembered the horror he'd felt when his apartment building collapsed and he thought his mom was still inside. The fear he felt when they couldn't reach his father. If his parents had died in the airstrike, would he want revenge on their killers? Instead of running away, should Mahmoud and his father join the rebels and fight to win their country back? Mahmoud's dad kept driving. They were almost to the highway when gunfire erupted nearby. Tat, 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 and bullets pinged into the car. Mahmoud screamed and dropped to the floor as broken glass sprayed him. One of the back tires exploded and the car swerved wildly and screeched as his dad fought to keep control of it. Mahmoud and Walid went tumbling and the soldiers in the back rolled on top of them. The soldier had a hole in his head. Mahmoud screamed again and pushed the man away as the car skidded to a stop. Bullets whizzed by, then caught the car again. Ping, ping, ping! And Mahmoud's dad threw open the driver's side door, and pulled Mom and Hannah out with him. Get out of the car, he cried. The soldiers in the back seat kicked open the door and the left side of the car and spilled outside. More bullets whizzed overhead. Soon the rebel soldiers who'd been riding with them were returning fire, their automatic rifles booming in Mahmoud's ears like he was in a barrel, and they were beating the outside of it with hammers. All Mahmoud wanted to do was curl up into a ball and disappear. But if he knew if he and Walid stayed in the car, they would end up like that dead soldier beside them. He had to get up, get out, move. His heart was pounding so hard, he thought it would burst right out of his chest. But Mahmoud found the courage to grab Walid by the arm, drag him over the seat, and dive headfirst out the door. They tumbled into the ditch beside his parents. Hannah was wailing, but Mahmoud almost couldn't hear over the sound of the gunfire. Mahmoud's dad waited for a pause in the gunfire, then scrambled back up to the ridge for the car. Yosef, no, Mom cried. What are you doing? Mahmoud's father dove back to the front seat and yanked the iPhone and charger cord from the Mercedes just as bullets ripped into the car again. He tumbled and slid back down the ditch. I had to go back for the phone, he told them. How else am I going to play Angry Birds? He was joking again. Mahmoud knew they needed their phones to help them get to Turkey. Without the maps, they'd be lost. Mahmoud's father waited for another lull in the shooting, and then they all hurried away from the car, leaving everything else they owned behind. Oh, things are getting intense now, aren't they? Oh my goodness. So good. Sorry, some of the